Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been long. I apologize for that, but we're gonna have a continuous string of videos going forward. So for those of you who are on this channel for the first time, my name is Aditya. Oh yeah, before that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button first. As I was saying, my name is Aditya and I create videos in tech to help you become better at programming, developing applications, or just learn a little more, whether it's in AI or any other subject, right? And once I make a video, you're completely free to ask me anything you want in the comments, and I'll try my best to help you out as well. Now, let's get to today's video and learn what it's about and what we're going to do. So this video is going to be in Python, as you can already see on the screen, and we're going to talk about a very interesting library that people often use for data cleaning, right? So probably the next few videos would be on data cleaning using Python as a programming language, but today is going to be interesting. So we're going to talk about this library called PyJanitor, as you can see up on the screen here. Now, this particular library is an open source adaptation from the R package Janitor, if you go and read a little bit more about it. And the best thing about it is that in Python, it's built on top of the pandas library. So if you've used pandas before, this makes life a little bit more easier, and we'll get to know why in just a moment. I'll probably create 2 or 3 parts for this library because there are a lot of different things you can do, and it may be difficult to cram everything into one video. Let's get past one and then we'll see how the others come about. Okay, and once again, if you are new to the channel, welcome, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see the next parts of this particular video as well. Okay, so I have a little bit of the code pre-written because I didn't want to type everything live on the video, and the pre-written part is something that it's very minimal and you can do it on your own time when you are rewriting this code as well. So the first part of this particular code is just importing the stuff we need. In my case, as you can see here, I've imported pandas because that's what Janitor is built on, so we need that. I've imported NumPy in case we want to use it anywhere later. It's kind of a thing people do when you're doing things such as data cleaning. Now this is a library that we're going to be talking about, which is Janitor. Once you import it, you don't really need to do anything with the name of the library or with what do you say? You don't need to do anything different, or you don't need to write any additional things. What would happen is all the functions or instances that Janitor has can be accessed using pandas directly on the data frame, right? So we'll get to that in a bit as well. And then I'm just suppressing some warnings here because I don't want them disrupting the video, to be honest. And also because some of the functions that Janitor has could be deprecated in future versions and give way to newer functions in pandas. Okay, so in this video, we'll look at a few things from the data cleaning perspective. We'll look at how to clean names of columns. And in this particular markdown, what I've also done is I've given you a Janitor instance, and I have given you the pandas equivalent if you would have to do it on pandas. So you can make that comparison yourself, all right, when you are practicing, when you're writing this code. We'll also see how to remove empty rows and columns, how to rename columns, find duplicate rows, drop duplicate rows, how to filter data based on certain conditions. And we'll also look at how you can do some method chaining, primarily to put all these things together and then create a code that's simple to read, simple to edit, and then you get the result like this. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. So this is the first set of functions or instances that we're going to see. Now, one of the other things that I like about Janitor personally, you may or may not like that, is that it makes it a little bit easier to understand what the function is doing, makes it a little bit easier to read and get the hang of functions, because it's much more friendly as compared to pandas or any other library, if I talk about it. Okay, so let's get to it. What I've also done here is I have created some synthetic data to help put all this together, because you may not find a data set which has everything messy. So I've on purpose created something so I can show you the functions. But in the real world, if you're doing data cleaning, data is not always clean, and I'm pretty sure if you have been doing data cleaning with other libraries, you know that. If you have not, welcome to the real world. But a lot of the times you would have to do cleaning on your data, whether it's a small data set, whether it's a large data set. And data cleaning is a very important process, so it's good to know different things that you can do, different libraries you have access to. Always have a bunch of alternatives with you handy. Okay, so as I was mentioning, here what I have is I have a data set that I've just put together. You can see there's a bunch of columns like product name, price, quantity, date, discount, category, and comments. And also I have put something or the other messy in the column name. So I have some extra dollar signs here and there, some extra special characters, and even within my data I have some proper data, some messy data, and we'll see how to go about cleaning that later on. I have put it together into a data frame, and then I've displayed the data frame so you can also see what the data frame looks like. Alright, so this is what we have by and large so far. Now you could also have a large data set. You can import a CSV file, you could import an Excel or Notepad file, maybe the data comes from there, but this is roughly how your data is going to look like. Now let's try to do the few things that we mentioned earlier on in the video. Okay, the first thing that we're going to try and do is we're going to try and clean the names of the columns, right? Why do we need to do that? As you can see, my column names have some special characters that I don't want. I don't know where it came from. Typically we avoid spaces in column names. We use underscores or some separators to make sure that it's a single word, because in a lot of instances white spaces in column names can lead to problems when you're using different functions and methods. You wouldn't want to do that. So the best practice is don't have white spaces in your column names. So let's see how we can go about cleaning that. Alright, now if you were typically going to use the pandas library, then the way to do that would have been what is mentioned here in the comments, right? Which is to use to access the columns, and then to use the replace function to replace what you don't want, and also to do other things like probably make everything lowercase, so on and so forth. So you'd have to put this chain of different functions in order to clean messy column names. So what we're going to do here is, for Janitor, we're going to say df. We'll try and save everything back into the same data frame. You could save it in a different data frame as well, just change the name. And we're going to say df dot clean underscore names, and within that we're also going to say, because we have special characters, we're going to say remove underscore special equals true. Alright, by the way, if you guys don't know what Janitor means, please go look it up. It just means a cleaner, right? Okay, so that's the simple piece of code that I'm gonna write, and hopefully this works. If not, we'll go and see what's wrong. Alright, it does work. Now what did it do, right? It said, okay, I'm gonna clean the names and I'm gonna remove the special characters. So what does cleaning the name of a column entail? First and foremost, if you make the comparison, everything is in lowercase, right? Secondly, all the white spaces existing anywhere have been replaced with underscores. So if you can see, you have underscore here, you have underscore here and here, because there was a space probably in the column name there. And all the special characters have also been removed. So all the dollar signs, all the parentheses, your ampersand, your @ symbol, your percentage sign, everything is gone. Now you have cleaner column names. Obviously, if you wanted to do this one by one or with a chain of commands in pandas, you can. This makes life a lot simpler. Who doesn't want a simpler life, right? So obviously, if you think something is not appropriate, you can always change one of the column names for something else using pandas, or you could use Janitor. We'll see how we can do that in one of the other videos, but this is what we have. All right, now what's the next thing that we're going to try and do? So the next thing we're going to try and do is we're going to remove the empty columns and rows together. Right here, what I've deliberately done is I've kept this particular row empty and I've kept this particular column empty, which is the category column. Okay, so let's try and clean that up. How do we do that? Well, it's quite simple. If you were to use pandas, you can see what you would have to do. You would have to drop all the NAs. NAs basically mean all those missing values or the empty values, and you'll have to choose whether you want to drop it across the axis, which is either the column or the rows, and you have to choose the methodology, whether you want to drop it when all of them are empty or if either one or more is empty, right? So that's what it means. Here what we're going to simply write is df equals df dot remove underscore empty. All right, simple. I mean, remove empty signifies that it'll remove everything that's empty, and as you see, that column is gone, that row is gone. All right, so now you have 0 to 8, you had 0 to 9 here. It also made sure that the index or the indices were sequential again after doing that cleaning. And that's an important thing. It's not missing an index. All right, now let's go about understanding how to rename the column. So I was mentioning this earlier that I'd do this in a different video, but let's just catch up and do it on this video itself. Now typically in pandas, renaming columns is something like this. So you use the rename function and then you mention the columns inside. Janitor just does a little bit of a variation here where it says you can do something like this. So you can say df equals df dot rename underscore columns. So the columns comes out instead of being inside. I mean, that's the major difference. Obviously it makes it more intuitive. You'd want to say rename columns and then the column names inside. That's what Janitor brings about as well, right? Made it a little bit easier. And then we'll pretty much do the same thing what we do in pandas, right? So we can say product name. Let's say, for example, we want to rename that probably to product, right? And let's put another one. Let's say, for example, the comments column. We want to rename that to feedback. All right. So that's pretty much what we want to do. And then let's just print out the data frame again so everybody can look at it. So here you'll see the name of the column has changed to product, comments has changed to feedback. Pretty straightforward, right? So we can rename any column using this methodology. So you can add everything into the dictionary and it will rename them. Just remember the syntax: old column name first, then what you want to replace it with, so the new column name you'd want, and the same thing again after a comma and a colon as a separator in between the old column name and the new column name. All right, so try this out yourself. You can probably pause the video, go back a little bit, and try out the first three things that we did before we move ahead. All right. Okay, so hopefully the first three things are good and you're very clear on that. The next thing is something that we often come across even when you're using things like Excel, any other tool, right? Finding duplicates. It's often that the same entry is entered multiple times. Now, in Janitor, you can do this quite easily. The function is also very, very simple. So all you would say is df.get underscore dupes, which is dupes stand for duplicates. So it tells us that okay, the first two rows are the same. Right, the duplicates, you can see that here. And the next obvious step would be to try and remove them. Now this function is the same as is like pandas, right? So it's just df equals df dot drop underscore duplicates. There's no difference in between pandas and Janitor because things cannot be easier than this, right? So once you do that, let me just print out the df again. You will see that the first row was dropped. So somebody is looking at this, knows that okay, there was a duplicate and it's been dropped now. So you only have one of those rows remaining. If you'd want the index to be in the proper sequence again, you can use a reset index function and you'd get that back. We can probably see that again in a later video as well. Now, the last thing that we'll probably do here is identify how you can filter something that you'd want to see from the data. So sometimes you'd want to see a certain segment of things. You'd want to probably for your analysis just look at a particular piece of information from your data. How we can do that here is very simply we can say df dot filter on. So it's just what do you want to filter on, right? So make sure your English is good, your functions will be very easy to write. Okay, and let's say for example here we'd want to probably filter on all those items that have the discount probably more than 25, right? So we'll expect these three rows to come up. So let's say discount underscore, I've just copied the name from here. Let's say this is greater than 25. That's it, right? Very straightforward and simple. And once you do that, if you've done it correctly, you should get the filtered data frame out. In this case, I haven't saved it to any data frame, but you could do that. You can say something like this, and then it'll be assigned to that data frame. All right. So at this point, again, maybe you'd want to pause the video, look back, make sure you have all 6 functions or methods that we have done clear. And once that's clear, what we'll do is we'll look at how, if you were to write this in one code cell using the concept of method chaining, what would we have to do, right? How do you put it together and what would it look like? How do I get the output? So let's try that. Now, method chaining, if you're hearing this for the first time, in very simple words, is to create a series or to use a series of methods or series of functions such that every function operates after the previous one, and then at the end of it you get the output that you want. All right, so you don't have to write the function again with a separate data frame in a separate code cell and just make your code lengthy. So typically when you start, when you become a more advanced developer, you would do method chaining to simplify the code, to make it more process friendly, and it's just easy to use. All right, so let's try and see how that will work with some of the methods that we used above. So let's say df underscore final. I just want to have a bit of a separate data frame name for this, And what I'm just going to do is I'm also just going to run this again. So I have my messy data set. So later you won't tell me, hey Aditya, you just wrote the entire code, you already have the data, you're just printing it out, you're not doing it correctly. So just for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reprint df here, and you'll see that we are back to the messy data frame. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say df final is equal to, and then I'll just open the parentheses, open the brackets, round brackets, sorry. Now within the round brackets is where you write all the code, right? So we say df, that's my original data frame, dot. Then we can start putting in our functions one by one, or methods one by one. So let's say we say, first we say clean underscore names, and here we say remove special equals true. You can also copy paste from above. I'm writing it so that you can also revise once more. You can write it along with me, and I'll try to keep it slow and clear so you can learn. Then what can we do? We can remove the empty rows and columns. So let's put that in. The next method could be to rename some of the columns. So let's say rename underscore columns. And let's say, for example, we did product name, right? So we did product underscore name to product. And what was the other column name? Comments. You're absolutely right. So comments to feedback. You can have any column name. I'm just using what I had earlier to make it simple. Let me close this. And maybe the last one, we can remove the duplicate. So we say drop duplicates. All right. And then we can close the round bracket. So you can see it's complete. And let's print the data frame here. Hopefully it works. All right, here we go. So once I've run that, what happens is it says, hey df, let's go and start doing things one by one. So it's like one task after the other. The first task would be to clean the names. Once it's done doing that, it takes the data frame with the clean names and does the next thing. Then it takes the data frame with the clean names and the empty rows removed and does the next thing. So this is what we call method chaining, right? Like a chain, if you see, is interlinked, right? So one part of the chain is interlinked with the next part of the chain and so on, right? And then the whole chain is your final output. So that's what is happening in this case as well. We're just interlinking one task with another, and the next task is always done on the combined output of the previous task, right? And at the end, we get the data frame that we saw using the individual cells and the individual functions, which is cleaned, not messy, empty rows removed, columns renamed, and duplicates gone. All right. So these were 6 functions that we saw in this particular video. Now, once again, just to very quickly recap, we saw a very quick introduction of this library called Janitor or PyJanitor in Python. And this is a library that will add certain functions to pandas, or is written on top of the pandas library, and will help you do things much more faster, better, probably with lesser code. That's often debatable, right? But it's much more intuitive, at least for me. And I believe that if you use it, give it a go, you will probably experience the same thing. So I think we can wrap up the video here and just wait for the next parts of the video to come out, because in those parts we'll probably do it as a continuation of this, so don't miss this one, and we'll see a few more things that we can do using the Janitor library, and then I'll leave you all to explore. Thank you for watching the video, and if you have any questions or comments, you want me to do anything with any of your data sets, help you understand how to clean it with Janitor, drop your question in the comments. If you like the video, that's always a positive thing. tell me in the comment section as well. And once again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because that's how you get notified of when videos come out, and that keeps me motivated to bring you more videos as well. Once again, thank you for watching, and take care. Bye-bye.